Morning, gentlemen. Thank you for joining again today. Let me start with Ecclesiastes 3 in Scripture. Starts off, there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. He does 14 kind of comparisons here. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. What do workers gain from their toil? I've seen the burden God has laid on the human race. He has made everything beautiful in its time. He has also set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end. And as you go through, obviously, all this, and of course, this part of Ecclesiastes here, these verses 2 through 8, were essentially made famous in the 60s by the Byrds. But there's a time and a season for everything. I've got a close friend of mine who's stricken with an incurable disease, and he's going to die. And we know that. We've talked about it. We have faith. We understand we're going to see each other. And so there's a peace about it that he and I both have, and those of us that are believers around him. But he just had a baby. And I was just leaving him a message the other day about this, of how there's a time to die and a time to live. And his little baby is 6 months old, and she's as precious as she can be. And she's full of life, right? She doesn't know these may not live, much longer. She doesn't know that he's stricken with some type of illness. And yet he is seeing the world, through her eyes as well, and wanting to pour into her as much as possible. And there's a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build. All of these, as we go through, are just just a stamp on our life of everything we see. And we question, you see on social media all the time, oh, well, why would God cause suffering, right, if he's an all-loving God? And, the war and everything else that's going on around our world now, from Israel and Palestine through Iran, through everything. And the lyrics that come to mind as I was going through Ecclesiastes 2 and 3 is the song Piano Man by Billy Joel. And I just want to read them to you. It's 9 o'clock on a Saturday. The regular crowd shuffles in. There's an old man sitting next to me, making love to his tonic and gin. He says, son, can you play me a memory? I'm not really sure how it goes, but it's sad and it's sweet, and I knew it complete when I wore a younger man's clothes. Sing us a song, you're the piano man. Sing us a song tonight, but we're all in the mood for a melody, and you've got us feeling all right. Now, John at the bar is a friend of mine. He gets me my drinks for free, and he's quick with a joke or a light up a smoke, but there's some place that he'd rather be. He says, Bill, I believe this is killing me, as a smile ran away from his face. Well, I'm sure that I could be a movie star if I could ever get out of this place. Paul is a real estate novelist who never had time for a wife, and he's talking with Davy, who's still in the Navy and probably will be for life. And the waitress is practicing politics as the businessman slowly gets stoned. Yes, they're sharing a drink they call loneliness, but it's better than drinking alone. A pretty good crowd for a Saturday, and the manager gives me a smile because he knows that it's me they've been coming to see to forget about life for a while. And again, this goes through the desperation that a lot of us have, that we chase these kind of momentary pleasures. Go to a bar to get drunk. Go to a strip club to see women that we can't have, right? Go to the track to gamble, hoping that we're going to turn our life around with a winning horse or a winning dog. And yet we're going to find the piano man, right? Someone who can make us forget our life for a while and the struggles that we have, and whatever that therapeutic decision that we make, that therapy that we use to try to get us from one moment to the next or one day to the next, is something we're all searching for. And it's found only in one place, and that's God. That's the Bible. That's the Scripture. And so I know that a lot of us men have a hard time. We make excuses for, I couldn't read, or I'll listen to it in the car on the way to work. That's great. You're hearing, but you may not be listening, right? Your mind is tracked out elsewhere. Oh, if I got to get to the office, all this traffic is terrible and it's going to slow me down or whatever. It's going to delay me. And you don't put in what you should be putting in, which is the word, and reading scripture and meditating on it. And I think that, for going through Ecclesiastes 3, something that our pastor said is that you cannot hold contentment while grasping for control. That that really resonated with me because we're all wanting to control our lives, right? We want to control our health, control our wealth, control just, every aspect. We won't be content if we're trying to control everything because again, once we get something, we're going to want something else. And if we lose it, now we're going to be upset. We're going to be ticked off because when we're going to start blaming our way, I didn't do something right or other people didn't do something right that I'd put trust in. And so you're trying to control everything. In verses 9 through 13 here is where he's talking about life isn't fair. And life's not going to be fair. Life's never going to be fair. We all die. That's not fair. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger has a quote that he was like, I work all my life for all this to hand it to somebody else and then I die. Like, well, that's just reality, right? We're in a fallen world. But in verse 14 and 15, it's basically get over it. Nothing's going to change. You're not going to change the fallen world. So stop trying. Find pleasure in the treasure that is Jesus and measure your life by how you serve God. So going back to Ecclesiastes 2, pleasure, measure, and treasure. If we find pleasure in the treasure of Jesus Christ and that our life then is measured by how we treated others, how we served others, how we were a servant of Jesus and that we obeyed what he had commanded us to do, which to go out to make disciples of all the nations, right? And help our Christians in a walk and be in fellowship and community with one another. That's how we should be measured, right? That is what this is all about, men. And so with that, we'll touch on Ecclesiastes 4 later on this week as well. But men, thank you so much for joining. And again, I hope you're in the Word. I hope you're getting something out of this Bible study and searching for sermons, whether it be by Hamburg or MacArthur or Bodie Bacham or whoever it may be that is your favorite. Just search Ecclesiastes sermons. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.